ओम अज्ञानं तिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वरूपं कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुवैष्णवं च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगन्धगुणाधृतं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णं चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपदां सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं च। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पार्षदेशतारिणे। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपेकांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विश्वानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंचा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च च कृपा सिंधु एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। हम शेयरिंग माय स्क्रीन। अभी नई बुक ये वाली स्टार्ट नहीं करी ना हमने लास्ट टाइम।
No problem.
Okay, Prabhuji. So we are starting our 16th book from the Prabhupada book section, and the name of the book is Teachings of Lord Kapila, the son of Devahuti. Okay. Yes, Meghna Mataji, start करेंगे आप.
Hare Krishna. Whereas the teachings of Lord Kapila, whereas philosophy in the Western germinates most often in the soils of intellectual curiosity and is highly theoretical, being concerned with knowledge for its own sake. Philosophy in the ancient Vedic tradition of India is very pointedly directed towards the avowedly practical goals of human liberation. The conviction that human life is specifically meant for discovering and applying the proper means for the liberation of the self from matter is the sine qua non of India's traditional spiritual thought and culture.
Okay. Kanak.
This book is based on a unique series of lectures on the teachings of Kapila Muni Kapildev, presented in Bombay, India in the spring of 1974 by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Kapila Muni, a renowned sage of antiquity, is the author of the Sankhya philosophy system. Sankhya, which forms an important part of India's ancient philosophical heritage, is both a system of metaphysics and a system of spiritual knowledge, culminating in liberation. Kapila, however, is not an ordinary philosopher or sage. According to Vedic tradition, he is an avatar incarnation of the Supreme Absolute Truth, Lord Sri Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Swati Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Lord Kapila descended as the son of Kardamuni and his wife Devahuti, both of whom were great yogis and saints. After Kardamuni renounced the world and went to the forest to attain spiritual perfection, Devahuti, aware of the divinity of her son, approached Kapila and implored him to endow her with spiritual enlightenment. Pleased by his mother's sincere desire for transcendental knowledge, Kapil spoke Sankhya philosophy, the philosophy which leads one to discriminate between matter and spirit and which culminates in the ultimate liberation called bhakti, divine love.
Yes, Dhananjay Prabhuji.
In this book, the author gives a brilliant exposition on the basic teachings of Kapila and thus illuminates a major element in traditional Indian spirituality. Topics discussed include the significance of the Guru, the psychology of consciousness, the characteristics of self-realized person, the science of meditation, the the nature of transcendental knowledge, the process of ultimate liberation.
Through his voluminous writings, which constitute a veritable library of Vedic philosophy, religion, literature, and culture, Srila Prabhupada has distinguished himself as the greatest contemporary teacher of Vedic philosophy and religion. This volume represents another valuable contribution by Srila Prabhupada to our increasing understanding of the profound and universal principles of Vedic wisdom. The teachings of Lord Kapila, the son of Devotees, divine Preface, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada ki Jai. Yes, Meghna Mataji.
Kapil Muni, a renowned sage of antiquity, is the author of philosophical system known as Sankhya, which forms an important part of Indian Asian philosophical heritage. Sankhya is both a system of metaphysics dealing with the elemental principles of the physical universe and a system of spiritual knowledge with its own methodology, uh, culminating in a full consciousness of the supreme absolute. Kapila, however, is not an ordinary philosopher or sage. According to the Vedic tradition, the tradition of India's ancient scriptural literature, he himself is an avatar, incarnation of the supreme absolute truth.
Kanak.
Kapila's teachings are originally inscribed in the Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Puran, one of the most important scriptural documents of Vedic theism. Within the Bhagavatam, Kapila's teaching comprise chapters 25 through 33 of the third canto. This book, Teachings of Lord Kapila, the son of Devahuti, is based on the unique series of lectures presented in Bombay, India in the spring of 1974 by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In this series, Srila Prabhupada spoke from the 25th chapter, which contains the beginning of Lord Kapila's teachings. Srila Prabhupada is the author of a celebrated multi-volume translation and commentary on the entire text of Bhagavatam. And at the time of the Kapila lectures, he had already completed his written commentary on the section of the Bhagavatam dealing with Kapil Dev's teaching. In these special lectures, however, Srila Prabhupada went into significantly greater detail in elucidating the verses and shed an even broader light upon these fascinating teachings.
The text begins with the words of Sonak, the foremost of the sages of Naimisharanya, the vastly learned sages to whom Srimad Bhagavatam were originally spoken some thousands of years ago. The sages have already heard about Lord Kapil Dev from Sut Goswami, an exalted spiritual master, and it is clear from Shaunak's words that they accept Kapil Muni as being an incarnation of the Lord himself, and as therefore being the highest authority on yoga and transcendental knowledge. In recounting the history of Lord Kapila, Sut Goswami, in accordance with Vedic principles for presenting spiritual knowledge, refers to discourse
ऐसा लग रहा है कुछ मिस हो गया है खत्म.
हाँ वही लग रहा है
Forward 7. ये आ गया.
refers to discourse by great spiritual masters who have previously discussed this same subject. In this case, Sut Goswami refers to a discussion between Vidur and the great sage Maitreya, who was a friend of Vyasadeva, the original compiler of the Vedic literature.
As Sutta Goswami has already described, Lord Kapila appeared in this world as the son of Kardama Muni, the master of mystic yoga. His wife Devahuti, both Kardama Muni and Devahuti were aware of divinity of their son. Indeed, even before Kapila's birth, Lord Brahma himself, the chief created person in this universe, had appeared before Devahuti and revealed to her that her son was to be incarnation of the Supreme Lord, and this incarnation would enlighten her with spiritual knowledge.
According to the Vedic social system, a man with a grown son may accept the order of sannyas, thus renouncing all connection with his family and worldly life, and entrust his wife to the care of his son. Karna Muni, of course, knew that his son was an incarnation of the Supreme Lord, yet to honor this Vedic system and emphasize its importance, he too eventually accepted sannyas. Entrusting his wife Devuti to the care of his divine son Kapil Dev. Therefore, Asut Goswami begins to answer Sonak's request to hear further about Lord Kapil Dev. The sages have already been informed of how Kardamuni departed for the forest, leaving Kapil Dev behind with Devahuti.
After Kardama's Muni's departure, Devati, remembering the prophet words of the Lord Brahma, approaches her divine son and humbly expresses her desire for spiritual enlightenment. My Lord, I have fallen into the bias of
Ignorance.
abyss of ignorance. Your lordship in my only means of getting out of this darkest region of ignorance, because you are my transcendental I, which by your mercy only I have attained after many and many births. Now be pleased, my Lord, to dispel my great delusion. You are the X which can cut the tree of material existence. I therefore offer my obeisance to you, who are the greatest of all the transit,
Transcendentalist.
transcendentalist, transcendentalist, and I inquire you as the relationship between a man and a woman be between spirit and matter. Srimad Bhagavatam 3.2 to 5.7 to 11. Pleased by his mother, pure desire for spiritual enlightenment and for feeling great compassion for her, Kapila begins to speak on the
Sa-
Philosophy.
Sankhya.
Shankhya philosophy.
Now, what is Shankya? Insofar as Shankya deals with the elemental categories or principles of the physical universe, Shankya is what Western scholars generally refer to as metaphysics. The term Shankya literally means to count. This name is used because Sankhya philosophy enumerates principles of cosmic evolution by rational analysis. The etymological meaning of the word Sankhya is that which explains very lucidly by analysis of material elements. Philosophically, this term is used because the Sankhya system expounds analytical knowledge that enable one to distinguish between matter and spirit. This understanding culminates in bhakti, devotion for and service to the Supreme. It may be said, therefore, that Sankhya and Bhakti form two aspects of the same process, Bhakti being the ultimate goal or ultimate aspect of Sankhya. Hare Krishna.
It is interesting to note at this point that longer after Lord Kapila's descent, an imitation Kapila appeared on the Indian subcontinent and propounded a non-atheistic Sankhya, that which is generally studied as Sankhya in the contemporary academic context is actually this later non-theistic materialistic Sankhya. The Sankhya philosophy propounded by the original Kapila is practically unknown in the West. Teachings of Lord Kapila, the son of Devahuti, along with Srila Prabhupada's complete commentary on Kapila's Sankhya in his edition of Srimad Bhagavatam, is probably the first major exposition in the English language on the original theistic Sankhya. It should therefore be of considerable interest to scholars in this field.
Because the basic principle and the ultimate goal of Lord Kapil Dev's Sankhya philosophy is bhakti. This is the subject with which Lord Kapil Dev begins his instructions to devotee. Consequently, because this volume teachings of Lord Kapila, the son of Devoti, is Srila Prabhupada's commentary on the beginning of Lord Kapila's teachings. It is chiefly concerned with the essence of Bhakti Yoga, the process of linking with the God. Yoga means linking through bhakti, devotion.
As the history begins, Devati approached her son, Kapila, and with deep humility expresses a sincere desire for spiritual enlightenment. In response, Lord Kapila delineates the path of the transcendentalists who are interested in self-realization. Concisely summarizing the actual process of self-realization, Kapila defines consciousness in both the conditioned and liberated states. He described the psychology of pure consciousness, delineates the symptoms and characteristics of a sadhu, holy person, and stresses the importance of sadhu sang, association with those who are saintly. Kapil Dev then explains that liberation is merely a stage preliminary to the attainment of bhakti, and that one who attains bhakti automatically achieves liberation. One who engages in bhakti, devotional yoga automatically transcends material desires and ultimately crosses beyond birth and death.
According to the later descriptions in Srimad Bhagavatam, devotee ultimately attains full enlightenment in the transcendental knowledge by hearing and understanding the sublime philosophical teaching of a great son, the publishers.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jagat Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
jai.
Okay. So we're starting with the chapter 1, the purpose of Lord Kapila's advent. Text 1.
Stonaka vacha kapilastattu sankhyaता भगवान आत्मा माया जताया सव्यम अजः सक्षत आत्म prajante narmam. Sri Shankya said, although he is unborn, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took birth as Kapila Muni. By his internal potency, he descended to disseminate transcendental knowledge for the benefit of the whole human race. Should I read the purport also?
Yes, first paragraph.
The word Atma Prajante indicates that the Lord descends for the benefit of the human race to give transcendental knowledge. Material necessities are quite sufficiently provided for in the knowledge given in the Vedic literatures, which offer a program for good living and gradual elevation to the platform of Satguna, the mode of goodness. Once one is situated in Satguna, one's knowledge expands. On the platform of passion, there is no knowledge, for passion is an impetus to enjoy material benefits. On the platform of ignorance, there is neither knowledge nor enjoyment, but simply animalistic living.
The Vedas are intended to elevate one from the mode of ignorance to the platform of goodness. When one is situated in the mode of goodness, he is able to understand knowledge of the self or transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge cannot be appreciated by any ordinary man. Therefore, a disciplic succession is required. This knowledge is expounded either by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself or by His bona fide devotee. Shonak Muni also states here that Kapila, the incarnation of Supreme Personality of Godhead, took birth or appeared simply to disseminate transcendental knowledge. To understand that one is not matter but a spirit soul, Aham Brahmasimi, I am by nature Brahman, is not sufficient for understanding the selfish activities. One must be situated in the activities of Brahman. Knowledge of those activities is explained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. Such transcendental knowledge can be appreciated in human society, but not in animal society, as clearly indicated here by the word nirnam for the human being. Human beings are meant to lead a regulated life. By nature, there is regulation in animal life also, but that is not like the regulative life described in the scriptures or by the Vedic authorities. Only when one's life is regulated according to the Vedas can one understand transcendental knowledge.
For the propagation of transcendental knowledge, Kapil Dev, the incarnation of Supreme Personality of Godhead, gave instructions in Sankhya philosophy to his mother Devahuti. Later, another Kapil Dev appeared. No, appeared who expounded atheistic Sankhya philosophy, which dealt with 24 elements but gave no information about God. The original Kapila is called Devahuti Putra Kapil. The other is called the atheist Kapil. Concerning Kapil Dev, Shaunak Rishi says Kapila's Tattva Sankheta. Kapila is the supreme person, therefore he can explain the absolute truth. Actually, only Bhagwan can know the true position of ultimate truth. No one else can know it. Bhagwan, Sri Krishna, or his incarnation occasionally visits the earth to give humanity information about the aim of life. Thus, the Supreme Lord descended as Kapil Dev. Tattva Sanketa, the word Sanketa means expounder. The Tattva means the absolute truth. The absolute truth is Bhagwan Sri Krishna himself. We cannot understand the absolute truth or the Supreme Personality by mental speculation, especially when we are under the influence of three modes of material nature, Sattvagun, Rajagun, Tamagun. Only those who are situated in Sattvagun, the mode of goodness, are fit to understand the absolute truth. According to Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter 42nd verse, those possessing Brahmanical qualification are situated in Sattvagun.
The purpose of Lord Kapila's advent. Sorry. Samo damas tapasacham shantir ajavavam cha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma sabhavajam. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tallness, honesty, wisdom, knowledge, and righteousness. These are the qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Yes, Ishu Prabhu.
According to the Vedic conception, there must be a man in society who are factually Brahmanas, capable of expounding the real truth. If everyone become a Shudra, the absolute truth cannot be understood. It is said that the present moment is a Kali Yuga. Everyone is a Shudra. Kalinu Shudra Sambhava, and it is very difficult to qualify Brahmanas, for they are very rare. There is practically not a single qualified Brahmana in this age.
Thank you. So we can stop here and start with the learning and realization. Yes. Anyone want to share share their realizations, comments, anything? Okay.
नहीं प्रभु जी, अभी मतलब ज्यादा तो सिर्फ हम लोगों ने प्रीफेस और नॉलेज पढ़ा ना, तो मतलब मेरे को इतना कुछ नहीं आया, तो कोई और शेयर कर सकता है।
तो भगवान कपिल देव जो है, ये भी भगवान का अवतार है। ये कर्दम मुनि और देवहूति के बेटे थे। कर्दम मुनि और देवहूति ने तपस्या करी थी और भगवान को अपने पुत्र के रूप में मांगा था। तो भगवान ने वरदान दिया उन्हें और भगवान कपिल देव के रूप में उनके पुत्र बन के आए और इन्होंने संख्या फिलॉसफी का ज्ञान दिया। संख्या फिलॉसफी कुछ मतलब मेटाफिजिक्स से रिलेटेबल लग रही है, मतलब मुझे आइडिया नहीं है मेटाफिजिक्स क्या है। संख्या नाम से तो काउंटिंग मतलब साउंड करता है कि काउंटिंग है, बट हाउ इट इज रिलेटेड टू द रियलाइजेशन ऑफ द सुप्रीम पर्सनालिटी गॉड।
प्रभु जी करेक्शन इट्स नॉट, ये जो है सांख्य है, सांख्य योग।
अच्छा, संख्या,
हाँ सांख्य बोलते हैं इसे।
संख्या, ओके।
हाँ, और जो मैंने पढ़ा है या सुना है उसमें ये है कि कर्दम मुनि थे, उन्होंने तपस्या की थी, वो भी पुत्र पाने के लिए नहीं की थी, उन्होंने तपस्या की थी कि मुझे मेरे ही नेचर वाली वाइफ मिले,
हाँ जी।
क्योंकि वो शादी नहीं करना चाहते थे। तो उन्होंने पुत्र पाने के लिए दोनों ने
अच्छा,
तपस्या नहीं की थी, बट
अच्छा।
कर्दम मुनि ने की थी। तो जब भगवान आए थे तो भगवान की खुद इच्छा हुई थी, उन्होंने खुद बोला था
ओ,
कि आई विल कम एज योर सन। तो उन्होंने खुद, उनकी ऐसी इच्छा हुई थी उनकी तपस्या देखकर कि तुम्हें वाइफ तो वैसी मिलेगी ही, कि जब मनु आएंगे और अपनी बेटी का हाथ तुम्हारे हाथों में देंगे 2 दिन 3 दिन बाद, जब भी भगवान ने बोला था, आई डोंट रिमेम्बर। फिर उनकी खुद की इच्छा हुई थी कि मैं तुम्हारे घर पे पुत्र बन के आऊंगा, तो तब वो फिर आए थे। बट वर्ड जो है वो है सांख्य योग।
सांख्य योग।
हाँ
तो हाँ आप सही कह रहे हैं। शायद मैंने कहीं और से पढ़ा था, तो हाँ उसमें यही था शायद कि भगवान ने इन्हें 2 वरदान दिए थे इनकी तपस्या से खुश होकर। एक तो
हाँ, इनका तो ये था वो वाइफ वाला कि मुझे
हम्म,
मेरे जैसी ही वाइफ मिल जाए। फिर
हम्म,
भगवान ने खुद अपने आप दिया था दूसरा। आई मीन
हम्म,
दिस इज व्हाट आई।
नहीं, दिस इज करेक्ट, मे बी। हाँ, ये दिस इज द मतलब फैक्ट एक्चुअली ऐसे ही हुआ था।
हाँ जी प्रभु जी, प्लीज कंटिन्यू।
अब बाकी सांख्या क्या है, मतलब मुझे वो समझ नहीं आया कि मेटाफिजिक्स से रिलेटेड है। ठीक है, पढ़ते हैं आगे क्या है इसके अंदर। आपको ये पता है सांख्य फिलॉसफी क्या है माता जी?
सांख्य वैसे अगर हम स्टैटिस्टिकल कैलकुलेशंस को भी बोलते हैं वैसे, जितना मुझे पता है। बट वैसे मतलब ये होता है सांख्य मतलब कुछ ऐसे, अगर हम इस टर्म्स में बोलते हैं, जैसे प्रभुपाद जी ने भी तो बीच में यूज किया था जब हम रीडिंग कर रहे थे, तो कुछ लिंक करना। तो वो ये बोल रहे हैं कि यहाँ पे जो जिसका इन्होंने किया था, कपिल देव जी ने जो बताई थी
हाँ,
फिलॉसफी,
हाँ, हाँ,
उसके हिसाब से ये था, मतलब हाउ वी कैन लिंक आवरसेल्व्स टू द गॉड।
ओके।
तो वैसे ये मतलब यहाँ पे था। वैसे सांख्या का मतलब इन जनरल लेते हैं तो जो हम मैथ्स पढ़ते हैं उसमें स्टैटिस्टिक्स में ही आता है, तो उसी से रिलेटेड जो कैलकुलेशन करते हैं, जो सारी चीजें होती हैं, उन्हें सांख्य बोलते हैं वैसे, जितना मुझे पता है। बट यहाँ पे जो हम बात कर रहे हैं, जो योगा की बात कर रहे हैं, वो यही थी सांख्य योग की। ऐसी चीजें उन्होंने बताई कि जिससे हम अपने आप को भगवान से जोड़ सके, लिंक कर सके, तो उसे बोला गया था। बट जो फिर दूसरे वो कपिल आए थे, उन्होंने वो पूरा ही कुछ और ही बता दिया था, विच इज नॉट एक्चुअली रिलेटेड टू
अच्छा, तो ये
भक्ति।
भी, हाँ ये भी कुछ नया पता चला था कि 2 बार कपिल देव आए, तो
हाँ वो
पहले
आए
वाले।
थे।
अच्छा।
जो पहले वाले थे वो तो ये भगवान के अवतारी थे, फिर एक और आए थे दूसरे। तो बहुत सारे लोग ना वो दूसरे वाले कपिल को फॉलो करते हैं, तो इसलिए जो भक्ति योग में होते हैं उन्हें तो स्पेशली, मतलब भक्ति कर रहे होते हैं तो अलग से बताया जाता है कि उस दूसरे वाले कपिल की बात नहीं कर रहे हैं, पहले वाले कपिल की कर रहे हैं, मतलब कपिल देव की, जो
अच्छा।
भगवान के इनकार्नेट हैं। उन्होंने भक्ति को ध्यान में रखते हुए, या फोकस भक्ति ही था, तब सांख्य योग बताया था। जो दूसरे आए थे वो तो एथिस्ट थे, उन्होंने कुछ भी बता दिया था।
अच्छा, तो दूसरे
तो
वाले जो थे वो भी भगवान के रूप थे या फिर वो कोई वैसी रैंडम थे?
नहीं नहीं नहीं, वो तो रैंडम ऐसे ही थे कोई, और उनका
अच्छा।
नाम पड़ गया था, तो बहुत लोग कंफ्यूज हो जाते हैं। वो दूसरे वाले कपिल देव को समझने लगते हैं, इसलिए यहाँ पे वो प्रभुपाद जी ने अलग से बताया है यहाँ पे कि
अच्छा।
उसकी बात नहीं कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे हम, जो दूसरे वाले आए थे।
तो सूत गोस्वामी और सौनक आदि ऋषियों के बीच में जो कन्वर्सेशन हुआ वो पहले वाले कपिल देव के ऊपर हुआ?
वो पहले वाले, हाँ, जो भागवतम में आता है वो पहले वाले कपिल
हम्म,
देव जी
अच्छा।
के।
यस, थैंक यू माता जी।
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, हमने नई बुक स्टार्ट की है क्या?
यस प्रभु जी।
अच्छा, ये एक्चुअली जहाँ तक कपिल देव के बारे में मैंने भी पढ़ा था स्टार्टिंग के भागवतम के उसमें फर्स्ट कैंटो में, तो ये पर्सोनिफिकेशन बताते हैं भगवान के माइंड का कपिल देव को, और साथ में ये 24 एलिमेंट्स जो महातत्व हैं जो स्टार्ट में थे एकदम वन है, जो ब्रह्मा जी को हैंड ओवर किए थे टू मैनिफेस्ट दिस मटेरियल वर्ल्ड, तो उसमें 24 एलिमेंट के बारे में जो पूरा लिंकिंग है, और मतलब जो एक्चुअल फैक्ट्स हैं 24 एलिमेंट्स के बारे में, तो शायद वो भी एक सांख्य में वो रिलेट करते हैं, और उसके ऊपर ही एक्सप्लेन किया है शायद कपिल देव ने। मे बी इंटरेस्टिंग रहेगा ये वाला। वही मैं सोच रहा हूँ कि आप नया बुक स्टार्ट किया हमने, तो
हाँ जी प्रभु
वही
जी।
स्टार्ट हुआ सब कुछ।
ये 16th
जी
बुक
जी।
है हमारी,
हम्म।
स्टार्ट हुई है।
ओ,
हाँ
कितनी
इंटरेस्टिंग।
है प्रभु जी?
हाँ जी
मीडियम साइज बुक कितनी है? मीडियम साइज बुक कितनी है? स्मॉल बुक्स तो हमारी खत्म हो गई, मीडियम साइज ही तो चल रही है।
माता जी, मेरे को आइडिया नहीं है, ऊपर प्रभु जी जो कहते हैं
अच्छा
कंटिन्यू करने के लिए तो वो स्टार्ट हो जाती है।
अच्छा अच्छा।
तो हाँ वो मेरे को आइडिया नहीं है। हाँ जी। हाँ तो ये इंटरेस्टिंग लग रही है, सही कह रहे हैं प्रभु। सुनने के बाद मतलब पढ़ने के बाद ना कुछ डिफरेंट सा लग रहा है
हम्म।
अभी तक। हाँ लेट्स सी। और किसको शेयर करना है, ऑन करना है? ओके, so we can stop. वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। थैंक यू फॉर जॉइनिंग एवरीवन। हरे कृष्णा। थैंक यू।